Hi, I'm Heyzeus, and this video is going to be talking about scammers. Basically, I'm going to go through a bunch of things that I think can help you avoid getting scammed, and I'm also going to talk about coping with things if you have been scammed. Now, I'm targeting this video for people who are less familiar with trading and skins. It's not going to be much help if you're an experienced trader, but I imagine most people who are experienced with trading are probably well aware of what to look out for anyway. And in fact, I'm going to recommend that people who aren't as familiar with trading avoid doing certain things that people who know what they're doing when it comes to trading might actually do regularly. So it's a targeted video in that sense. It's certainly not intended as a one-size-fits-all solution. My approach isn't to try and go through all the different types of scams and lay out how each one works, because frankly there's an enormous and ever-growing list of scams with many deviations, so I don't see much value in that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some basic principles and steps that you can use to insulate yourself. And if you want to do more reading on this, which I do actually recommend, I'll include some links in the description where you can get more information. This problem is always going to be bigger than something you can cover in a list, no matter how big the list is. So I do recommend that people do their own research as well. So without further ado, this is my advice. Number 1. Use Steam Wizard. So Steam Wizard is a browser extension, and I'll include a link to it in the description because, well, as we'll see, not all browser extensions can be trusted, and fake versions of proper extensions aren't unheard of, but the reason I recommend including this extension is that it allows you to see the float and value of any skins while you're in browser, and importantly, during any in-browser trade offers, it will show you the value of the skins on each side of the trade. This is really helpful in making sure someone doesn't try and short sell you by giving you a skin in a lower condition tier or giving you a non-stat track version of a skin when they promise a stat track version or something like that. It does sound obvious, particularly if you're familiar with skins, but if you're not, this is actually pretty helpful information, and even if you are, it only takes a momentary lapse in judgment to get caught out. So it might not be a likely problem, but it's still an extra layer of protection, and if you're an absent-minded klutz like I am, it can be quite helpful. 2. Check people on Steam Rep before you trade with them. If you're trading with somebody, and especially if you don't know them, if there's someone you've dealt with before or it's a friend or something like that, it might not be as important, but if it's someone you don't know, check them on Steam Rep. To do this, what you need to do is you need to go to their Steam profile page and make sure it's the Steam profile of the person you're directly talking to, even if they're insisting that this is just their alt, and they're saying this is my real account over here. Make sure you use the link on the account you're dealing with. Take that link and paste it into the search bar on Steam Rep. If they're marked as a scammer or as a caution, don't trade with them. Now, sometimes scammers will still do a normal trade with you, but unless you feel absolutely confident you know what you're doing, it's just not worth the risk, and definitely don't take their word for anything. Now, of course, lots of scammers aren't going to be registered on Steam Rep, so this is by no means a definite register of all the scammers out there. It's not perfect, and being clean on Steam Rep does not mean someone can automatically be trusted. Of course, this is by no means the only thing you should check if you're going to trade with somebody. 3. Check their account details. Checking someone's account details can also provide good indicators about whether or not they might be a scammer. Certain things are signs that an account can't be trusted. These include having a small number of games in their account, especially if CSGO isn't one of them, a low number of hours played in-game, and low account ages. Another useful thing to look at is what's in their inventory. If it's private, or nearly empty, or filled up entirely with 3-cent items like 500 3-cent cases or stuff like that, all three of these things are indicators that someone can't be trusted. Number 4. Watch out for impersonators. It's quite common for people to impersonate established traders, and just people who have large inventories, either claiming to be their alt account, which is used for trading, or sticking a link to the actual person's inventory, that is the inventory of the person that they're impersonating, in their profile description to try and make it look like that's their actual inventory. In most, but not all cases, these accounts will be like the ones that I've just described in the previous segment. New accounts, few games, they might not even have CSGO, and typically private inventories. Don't ever trade with these people. Don't even accept their friend requests. Number 5. Don't trade if you're not sure about the value of the items. This is pretty straightforward. Don't take part in any trade where you aren't absolutely certain about the values of the items involved. This is particularly important because some items are actually quite difficult to price, particularly if they're rare, unusual, or not traded very much, and scammers will try to take advantage of that to either get you to pay too much for something or get you to sell something for less than the market price. Make sure you know exactly what the value of an item is before you take part in a trade. And by this, I don't mean the lowest price on the market, but the prices that they're actually selling at. To do this, what I recommend is either look at the past sales chart on the Steam market or OP skins. These are the actual indicators of what the sales prices are, and you can also check trading sites to see what sort of prices you'll get on them. If you're not certain, don't make the trade. Number 6, don't go first in a trade. Now, I want to try and be as clear as possible about what I mean here. Firstly, this is a prime example of something here that doesn't apply as much if you're an experienced trader and you know what you're doing, and it also doesn't apply to stuff like listing items on OP skins or with some reputable gambling or trading site. And I stress reputable because some of them are basically pop-up scams. What I am concerned about here though is when you're trading with other people. Basically, don't engage in any trade where the other half of the transaction isn't in the same window. Don't rely on the other person's good faith to pay you once you've sent your item to them. That's not to say you'll always be scammed if you go first, but if you're not experienced with trading, if you don't feel absolutely confident that you know what you're doing, don't put yourself in a situation where you're putting one of your items into a trade offer that's empty on the other end and leaving yourself trusting in the other party to honour their end of the deal, whatever it is they happen to have promised. Number 7. There's no such thing as checking that skins are safe. One of the common tricks used by scammers, and there's some great videos people have made messing with these people, is to tell you that they need to check that your skins are safe before they trade with you, often making some reference to duped or bugged skins or something like that. This is bullshit. It's entirely bullshit in each and every single instance. If someone wanting to trade with you says this, they are a scammer. 100%, no exceptions, ever. Number 8. Don't ever click on a link someone shows you in Steam chat unless you know them. If someone you're trading with sends you a link through Steam chat, don't click on it. It could be a phishing link or a link to a fake website to try and trick you into depositing there, or a range of things like that. Typically these will be a misspelt version of a common website, often OP skins. The safest way to avoid this problem is simply to avoid clicking on browser links sent to you by somebody that you don't know. If what they're trying to link you to is legit, you'll be able to get to it without clicking on the link in Steam chat. Number 9. Don't download a browser extension if someone you're trading with asks you. Getting you to install a malicious browser extension is another common trick used by scammers. Some of these are extremely sophisticated, but what they all have in common is that they will steal your skins. Don't ever install a browser extension if someone you're trading with asks you. This is a big red flag, and they're almost certainly a scammer. Number 10. There are no bans of any sort for refusing to trade with somebody or wasting someone's time when involved in any trading related activity. Some scammers will use the threat of a VAC or trade ban to try and intimidate you into going along with their scam. Often this runs hand in hand with pretending to be a fake Valve admin and pretending to check your items. These bans don't exist, and if anyone threatens them, you know immediately that they are, without any doubt, trying to scam you. Number 11. Don't get conned by the promise of overpay. If someone keeps offering you more and more ridiculous overpay to get you to agree to do something, and often it'll be something I've already described on this list, it's generally a sign that they're trying to scam you. It comes back to the old adage, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Don't ever take the risk of getting scammed simply because they're offering you some overpay. Number 12. If you're not sure, don't go through with the trade. Err on the side of caution, particularly if you're unfamiliar with skins and trading. It might not be nice turning somebody down, knowing that they might actually be trying to trade with you in good faith, but it's better than getting scammed. If you're not sure, you don't have to accept. So, those are the main pieces of advice I have on how to avoid being scammed. I should emphasize, this is not an exhaustive list. Scammers will always be trying to find new ways and new tricks to scam you with, and at the end of the day, your only true defense is your own vigilance. And look, if you're new to doing stuff with skins, that's going to be hard. And because of that, I want to briefly talk about dealing with being scammed. Now, I don't want to focus here on things like reporting them to Steam or to SteamRep or to the CSGO trading subreddit. Particularly in the case of the latter two, they have their own guides on how to do that, and I'd rather let them explain it because I'm not an arbiter or a final judge on the correct way to go about it, so I don't really want to try and give people advice on that. But what I would like to talk about is how to cope with being scammed. Because the reality is, there's always going to be some people getting scammed, and I actually hear about it surprisingly often, and quite often it's people who are established in the community, people who do a lot of trading, people who you wouldn't expect to get caught out. So, first of all, I'd like to make the point from that if you do get scammed, you shouldn't feel ashamed about it. It actually happens to a lot of people. And, in fact, an interesting aside, the morning before I made this video, someone was telling me about how an account impersonating a gambling site was telling them that they'd won a giveaway for a Dragon Lore, but was asking them whether they could buy something off them for the next giveaway first, and sending them trade offers that, had one of my friend's skins, but nothing else in it. And obviously they were hoping that he'd accept this offer, because he's too busy thinking about the Dragon Lore he just won, which luckily he was well aware it was a scam, but there would be people, and most of them probably kids, who are getting caught out by that. But anyway, the important thing is how you react to it, because most of the time, and this is the sad truth, your items aren't going to be coming back. So what's going to make the biggest difference in the circumstances is how you handle it. Now, part of this is going to be obvious. It's going to be about learning from whatever mistake you made, but there's another component, and if you're being truly pragmatic about it, the best thing you can do is just put the whole thing out of your mind and get on with things. Some people can do that, but what I wanted to address more is when you can't just do that, because most people can't actually just put it out of their minds and move on. Now, I'm one of those people who can't just put this stuff out of my mind and move on. For instance, when I do trade-ups, most days I'll make money, but some days I lose money. And one of the things I've learnt that I have to do is to make sure I only do trade-ups late at night, because in the past what I've found is that some of the time when I lose money, I can't concentrate on doing work the rest of the day, and that's not good if you're doing a lot of study. So I always do stuff late at night, so even if I lose, at least I'm exhausted and I probably fall asleep anyway and forget about things. And obviously, being scammed is a lot worse than just having a bad run of trade-ups, because you feel like you've been duped, you feel like you're the sucker, the fool, somebody's taken advantage of you. You feel betrayed. It's a difficult thing just to put to the back of your mind. So, while I think it's important that you move on from whatever's happened, it's not unreasonable to take some time to do it. Most people won't be able to do it instantly. And aside from the fact that ultimately time is going to be the best cure, I think the best thing in the circumstances is to have some time away from Counter-Strike or skins. I think often that will help you stop thinking about it. Being upset is the reasonable thing to do in the circumstances for most people. There's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure you don't do anything rash in that time. Try and keep yourself away from any potential risks. For instance, don't go and try and get back what you lost through gambling with your remaining skins, for example. My personal advice anyway would be to keep yourself away from situations like that where there's that sort of risk, and if necessary, take time away from Counter-Strike and from skins until you feel better, because at the end of the day, often time is the only real cure. Anyway, I hope that ramble wasn't too self-indulgent. That's my thoughts on coping with this sort of stuff anyway. Thanks for watching. Trust the numbers and not someone promising you mad overpay. I'm Heyzeus. See ya.